right now on KGW News. When this apartment building caught fire, many inside didn't think it was real. And tonight we've uncovered new records that help explain why. Also ahead, KGW investigates
We stack up really poorly right now against other states.
how a debt collector was able to wipe out a man's bank account without him knowing he owed money. Then later, a local love story with a twist.
It's just so funny that we ended up together. Like, it was so meant to be.
How a couple fell for each other, then found out they grew up in the same house. Good evening, and we begin with a fight over funding for Portland Public Schools. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko. Tonight, teachers, students, and parents packed the school board meeting, so much so they had to delay the start. Alma McCarty was at that meeting. Alma.
David, this meeting is actually still ongoing, and it's covered a lot of ground. The board laid out the proposed $2.18 billion budget to the public. Final approval isn't expected until next month. Most of those in the crowd there with the teachers union, they are asking the district to invest in educators and staff, pay a competitive and livable wage to all, focus on student needs, expand mental health services, cut down on class sizes, and upgrade school buildings. They argue the district is sitting on extra money that they should be directing towards those areas.
I believe that together we can build great public schools. Schools that serve all of our students, every single student, the school that our students deserve. But in order to do that, we need PPS management and the school board to direct more funds towards everything we've called out in our bargaining proposals. Increase mental health and special education supports at every site, increase community supports and community input, attractive educator wages, and class size and caseload caps. Bring back our TOSAs, bring back OLA, bring back classroom teachers, make this place a place where folks want to work and want to attend. And I think that will help us build these great public schools.
Part of the budget includes 13 recommendations to the board from the district, specifically about safety and security, first presented earlier this month. Among those, requiring ID badges for students, starting a rapid response system, refining crisis communication, and creating a partnership with Portland Police. Several students who attended this evening wore badges that said, "No cops in schools." Jonathan Garcia, chief of staff for the district, explains the plan does not bring back officers in schools.
What we are proposing and what we heard from our students and our staff is that we don't want hallway monitors with guns. However, there is a sense of what is the positive relationship that we need to have with law enforcement. Relationship with the Bureau, we don't have a title. What we know is that we want law enforcement in our community patrolling and providing that level of safety.
Both the board and district pointed to lawmakers in Salem, saying that ultimately they are in charge of fully funding education across the state. Both Oregon Democrats and Republicans have announced separate plans to increase funding, putting more money into the state school fund than ever before. But the plans cannot be voted on in the Senate until the Republican walkout is over. David?
Thanks, Alma. I appreciate the update there. We've got some new details tonight about the Southwest Portland apartment building that went up in flames last week. And now it turns out firefighters have responded to that century-plus-old building more than 24 times in the last 6 months alone. In about half those cases, records obtained by KGW show someone intentionally pulled the fire alarm. Now, this comes the same day investigators had their first chance to go inside the building to try to learn more about the cause. This afternoon, a crew made it into the room, officials say, where they believe the blaze started. Still no details on the where and why, but an arson detecting canine was also part of the effort. With the building in such bad shape, it had to be shored up by specialists around that area in case of a cave-in.
So this is an unreinforced masonry building with like a wooden facade and some brick facade on the outside of that. So it's a convoluted sort of structure that has been significantly damaged by the fire and water. So absolutely we're taking this as seriously as it needs to be, and there's a significant threat, absolutely.
Well, meanwhile, the owners of the building have 30 days to decide if they'll rebuild from what's left or tear the building down. In national headlines now, tomorrow marks 1 year since the mass shooting at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. You may remember surveillance video and witness accounts helped show how law enforcement waited more than an hour before they confronted and killed the 18-year-old gunman. 1 year on, victims' families say they are still waiting for accountability and for change.
You know, this is something that we live with, not even just every day, every second, you know, and just imagine everything you love getting ripped from you.
Everybody that was there that day has to be held accountable. Every agency that was there. And this is my opinion. It's been a bunch of BS.
Families also urged Texas lawmakers to raise the purchase age for AR-style rifles from 18 to 21, a proposal that did not make it to the House floor. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, the parents of a man who died in a Northeast Portland apartment fire are suing Legacy Health after they say an employee took photos of their son's burned body and shared them with others. 31-year-old Seth Thompson died when a fire broke out at the Heidi Manor Apartments on Northeast Weidler in 2021. The Oregonian reporting the person who allegedly took those photos at Legacy doesn't work there anymore. We have reached out to Legacy for comment. Thompson's parents are seeking $75,000 in damages. A former security guard who shot and killed a man outside a North Portland hardware store has been sentenced to life in prison. Logan Gimbel was found guilty of second-degree murder for the May 2021 shooting of 49-year-old Freddie Nelson. This was outside the Lowe's near Delta Park. Court documents indicate there was a personal dispute between Nelson landowners and the contracted security company, with a separate civil complaint alleging guards had been instructed to harass and intimidate Nelson. And those allegations have not yet been heard in court. Gimbel will be eligible for parole after 25 years. In Salem, a 16-year-old boy has died following a hit-and-run crash. Police say the driver of one vehicle hit 2 others around 3 in the morning Sunday at Lancaster Drive and Beverly Avenue Northeast. Police say that driver, 27-year-old Gustavo Sosa, took off before they arrived but turned himself in on Monday. The teenager who was in one of the other vehicles was taken to the hospital and died this morning. Sosa faces charges that include manslaughter and DUII. And in yet another twist to the walkouts in the state Senate, Republicans say they plan to return on the last day of the session to pass, quote, substantially bipartisan budgets and bills, end quote. But Democrat Rob Wagner, the Senate president, preempted that move last week, saying that is not going to happen. The session is required to end by June 25th. To an update tonight on our homeless crisis, where Multnomah County just underspent tens of millions of dollars for a tax put in place to help homeless people. Now, voters approved the Supportive Housing Services Fund in 2020, which is directed at higher income earners. According to a recent report, there's more than $46 million left over. Nonprofits like North Portland's Bybee Lakes Hope Center say that is especially discouraging, since they say they could put the funds to good use right now.
It's extremely frustrating to know that at the end of a year that there's so many millions of dollars left over, and we're saying we want to help, we're on your team, but we need your help to provide that service. And they would rather end the year with money not spent than give us the opportunity to do our job.
Unspent money, that is not helping a single person. And we need to help people in the now.
Well, that is the executive director of Old Town's Blanchet House. Meanwhile, Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson has reportedly called the underspending, quote, unacceptable. She told us in a statement the county will consider every shelter option when it comes to distributing this money. It is unclear if some of it could go toward funding Portland's mass-sanctioned homeless camps. We have an update tonight on the landslide last week that took out the highway to Mount St Helens Johnston Ridge Observatory. State officials have been collecting data from the air and on the ground this week to get a better picture of just how bad things are and to create a timeline of sorts for cleanup and repairs. Meanwhile, the U.S. Forest Service says it is working on a plan to allow visitors to access the north side of the monument this summer. It's unclear what alternative options, though, they are exploring.